Welcome to The Closing Table with host Tamera, where we break down how to be successful in real estate and what it's really like to work in the real estate business. This is The Closing Table with Lawyer's Title.
Welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Tamera. Today, we're going to talk about best practices for small businesses. But first, if you like my content, you're really going to love my escrow team. So let's get a conversation started about your title needs. You can reach out to me on any of my social media platforms, and we'll get a conversation started. Today's guest is actually a repeat guest. I have Alexis Jackson with me. She is now the publisher of City Lifestyle magazine, and we're going to talk to her about, number one, what she's up to right now, and then also we're going to talk about how she can help educate some of our small business owners and how to really move the needle down the road with being successful. So, Alexis, thank you so much for joining me today.
It's always a pleasure, and thanks for having me back.
I mean, I'm such a huge fan of yours and all the things that you've done for Solana, so it's always good to see you, and I appreciate you very much. And so today, I want to go ahead and just jump right in, right? So you've had a change in what you're doing with your career, and so now you're the publisher of City Lifestyle magazine, specifically Little Elm and Aubrey, correct?
Yes, correct.
If I remember correctly.
You got it.
So let's talk about that. Tell me about the magazine. I get the Solana version, of course, because I live in Solana, but let's talk about the magazine and what you're up to with trying to get that one off the ground in Little Elm and Aubrey.
Well, Solana is what brought me to the company. It's a 15-year-old company based out of Kansas City. There's about 200 plus throughout the entire country.
Okay.
Major metro areas. I think there's 30 Solana or City Lifestyles in North Texas. So I'm the owner. It's a franchise, so I'm the owner of Lakeside. We're calling it Lakeside City Lifestyle because it's in between. It's the area in between Lake Louisville and Lake Ray Roberts. So Little Elm, Aubrey, Crossroads, Oak Point, Krugerville, Lakewood Village, or some smaller areas.
Oh, so it's much bigger than your area is much bigger than I knew about.
It is big. It's about it distributed to about 7,000 homes and businesses in that area. And
well, that's only going to keep growing.
No, and that's exactly why we did it, is because that entire area, as well as all of North Texas, as you know, it's not a golden corridor anymore. It's a golden rectangle. That area is growing, and you've got lots of people moving from out of state, and they need to know who are the industry experts in, related to home services. Who are the best roofers? Who are the best electricians and plumbers? And so as part of our partnership, we help them do some branding.
So do you vet the businesses that are a part of that? You want to make sure that you're...
Ma'am.
Okay,
because their reputation is our reputation.
That's right.
So if they have we look at their Google reviews. If they're a fly-by-night, we will not partner with them. We're an elevated coffee table style magazine.
Well, like I said, I get the Solana version, of course, is what you know. And I always look through it because, number one, it's always a beautiful cover. There's always something interesting on the cover that draws your attention to the cover. And then the contents, like you said, are businesses that have been vetted, that are in my area. And I want to see, I may even find out about a business that came to the area that I don't even know about, right? And there's always really interesting articles and then some cool like recipe or something like that in there. I just enjoy the contents. And I get several different ones at the house, but most of them... File 13. But that one I always look at. And some of my favorite realtor friends advertise in the magazine
They
too.
do.
So I always take a snapshot and I see you. So I wish I had asked you to bring a copy of yours today so that I could take a look at it. But how has it been getting businesses to onboard?
The best reason why that I'm now in this role and not my previous role is that I found that I have the biggest heart and passion for small business owners. And what I have found in my career and my life is that small business owners want to concentrate on what they love and what they're best at. Whether it's I'm going to make the best cupcake is my best example, and I want to concentrate on making the best cupcake and selling the best cupcake. However, they don't always know about HR and payroll and marketing and branding.
There's other stuff. You can't just make a cupcake.
And they're literally inundated.
Yeah.
And there's new platforms all the time. TikTok, TikTok, Instagram, Twitch, Twitter, all of it. And so they're inundated. So what we do and what I do is I become their marketing strategist. So we know that print is a way to elevate your brand, but we also do digital and we also have events. So we hit it from 3 different aspects of it. And all our model is sharing their story. Because when you've got multiple title companies and multiple real estate agents and brokers and insurance agents, how do you differentiate yourself? I ask that of all of the people that I sit down with. How do you differentiate yourself when the market is very, very flooded?
Yeah.
And one way I believe wholeheartedly is the magazine. It does elevate you. It does differentiate you. It's not just an ad. We don't just sell ads. We say it's about sharing your story, because I want to connect with the people that I'm doing business with. I want to know where my money is going. Is it going to a small business owner, versus a giant corporation that I'll never have a relationship with? Right. And so that's what we help with, is differentiating them between all of the others, and then really branding them as the expert and setting them apart based on their story, their why. I always want to know everyone's why.
Right.
That speaks to me.
Yeah. And it's so interesting, because what you're saying, the result is that you and I have a lot of synergy in what we do, because I don't just take in contracts to close them, right? It's about relationship development and helping the people that we do business be even more successful tomorrow than what they were today, right? So my role is to deep dive into their business and help them find more opportunity. And so I love that you're doing that. It's not just an advertisement in a magazine. It's so much more than that. And look, I would guess, and correct me if I'm wrong, that small business owners kind of feel like a little island unto themselves sometimes, where they don't have resources for how do I grow my business on social media, on these different platforms, or get the word out about that I'm here and are able to continue to be successful. So I love that you're doing that. And that kind of starts off our conversation. So we are going to talk about best practices for small businesses. So I'm going to tee up for the first question. So tell us, what is step 1 for a small business?
And a lot of people are going to say, duh. But what I have found is that a lot of small business owners do not have a business plan, or their business plan has been outdated. So they crafted one and they haven't reinvigorated it or re-innovated it. A lot of them don't have a business plan. They just have an idea and then they start. But a plan is your guidebook. It is your path for success. And if it's not written down and you're not constantly looking at it, something that I would highly suggest that you do, anyone does. And there's so many ways to accomplish it. This, the SBA will sit down with you. There's so many resources for it.
Say what the acronym means.
Yeah,
so that people...
Small Business Administration.
Okay.
They have retired entrepreneurs that their whole life is dedicated to helping other entrepreneurs write their business plans.
So that's very cool. I didn't know about that.
Yes, it's number 1 on my list.
Okay.
And like I said, a lot of people, duh. But a lot of people, when I ask them if they have one, they don't always say yes.
I can imagine that to be true. A lot of people don't have business plans.
Yeah.
To me, that is step 1, right? And then it's also setting your goals of how you're going to grow your business, right? And so it's really interesting to me whenever, I say, ask what, how are you performing versus last year, and a lot of they just don't know, right? So I think that's a great step 1. I'm assuming there's subsequent steps after that, but do you want to kind of expand on some of these best practices? We'll jump into some of this other stuff, but are there any extra bullet points or steps that you want to highlight right now?
Yeah. So the second one would be prioritize your customers. And then that's another maybe low-hanging fruit or no-brainer, but your top grossing customers, they're repeat customers for a reason. And that goes back to what you said, your relationship building. But I believe that you should know their birth date. You should know their dog's name. You should send them cookies and flowers, on special occasions. You have to cultivate that relationship, and you have to know who they are. A lot of people don't have a list of their best customers, but there is a statistic that I think 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of your clients.
That's right.
And a lot of people don't have a list of them, and they're not continually cultivating that relationship. And so that's definitely number 2. Knowing them, helping them, assisting them, checking in with them, just from hey, how are you doing? that it's a small thing.
Yep.
And we all get really busy, but it's something that we have to constantly work at.
That's interesting that you say that, because I have a couple of vendors. Obviously I do a lot of client appreciation type things, right? And I have one in particular that I gave a lot of business to and never heard from her, nothing. There was nothing. It was just me giving out, business, right? And I left for a while because I was just kind of like, I don't feel important, right? And I think that's one thing that we have to keep in mind is the people that are supporting us the most are raving fans. I call them our raving fans, right?
And brand ambassadors.
Yes, brand ambassadors. I give out referrals. I boost these people on social media because I also want them to be successful. But I think it's really important for small business owners to recognize who their top clients are and show appreciation from time to time. I don't require like some big something or other, but even just a text to say, thank you for the orders this month, or is everything going okay, or something, but there's nothing.
When was the last time you got a handwritten card that just said thank you?
I get those from
That's
realtors.
good. That's awesome.
I get those from realtors. It's a big deal.
It is.
I have one realtor in particular. I've talked about her on my podcast several times. I find myself doing things just so I can get a thank you card from her.
Wow, that must be special.
They are incredibly, I have never gotten a thank you card. They're incredibly creative. They're incredibly heartfelt. They're incredibly eloquent. They make an impact. I have 2 clients and I keep their thank you cards because the other one always does some sort of quote that relates to whatever he's saying thank you for. And those are incredibly, so I keep every single one of them.
That's
because they're just impactful.
Yeah.
So, but it is important. I really like handwritten notes, and I think it's a kind of a lost
art.
Yeah, because who wants to open their mailbox all the time and get a bunch of bills? It's fun. It's fun to have the card. But anyway, okay, so let's keep going.
Yeah, the third one is innovation. Innovation is the lifeblood of small businesses, meaning that in a small business environment, it's easy to pivot. I know everyone overused that word during COVID, but it's true. You constantly can reinvent yourself in a good way, meaning, are you looking at your Google reviews? Are you talking to your customers? Are you actively looking for feedback on different ways to better your business and then in turn better your revenue? You increase your revenue. And so there's lots of different technologies that I just suggest that people lean into. Chat GPT is one of them. AI is something that I know,
You don't have to write anything yourself anymore.
No, and I think people are afraid of it. They think they're plagiarizing. You're not. I would say, craft your draft, your ideas, put it into Chat GPT, whether it's for social media, whether it's for your business plan, LinkedIn post, they're all using it, and then just make it better, polish it up. It's like having an editor on your team, and you don't need to hire one.
It's incredibly creative, right? And so if you struggle with being creative, I struggle with that. I'm very much a taskmaster, right? But when it comes to the creative side of things, I'm like, I just don't have a lot of juice for it. It takes a lot of energy out of me to become that. But ChatGPT has replaced the need to be creative because you just literally type in what you want and it'll spit it out, right? And there is you do have to read it.
You do.
To make sure that it's what you wanted before you post.
Yeah,
but
no kidding.
It takes a lot of the heavy lifting of coming up with those descriptive posts. And I find it to streamline a lot of things. Podcast discussions, anything that you need to do that is causes you to write something, right? Or come up with a plan for something. It can help you do that.
It's a time saver, definitely.
Okay, well, wait a minute. I want to stay on innovation for a minute because innovation can mean a whole lot of different things, right? You mentioned during COVID, the people that were pivoting. I thought one of the most brilliant things that I saw were the restaurants that then turned it into a delivery service and you were getting margaritas at your door, I was like, that is fabulous. So, let's talk about the different types of innovation that a small business should focus on. Does that make sense what I'm asking?
There's a couple of different. So technology is one. We've already mentioned that, and then leading into it. If you have any fear of technology, there's so many ways that you can learn whatever it is. Canva is a great tool. These are all tools. but innovation from a feedback standpoint. So that's a strategy. Again, looking at your plan, being strategic, your goals and objectives, for your business, looking at your revenue year over year, which a lot of people actually don't do, which you already mentioned. And then recognizing where there's some shortfalls, where's the gap, and finding people, resources, technology to fill that gap. But a lot of people aren't looking at it. They're just keeping going one foot after the other. And I understand that, because small business owners are like the scrappiest.
They work all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah. And they're scrappy and they're wonderful. But they're very, very focused on a couple of different aspects of their business, not all aspects. And there's so many people out there that want to help. I think networking is another way to innovate. You don't always have to close your doors as a small business owner and leave, because I know that's challenging for some people. Online networking has I've been very impressed by it since I've been doing it lately. That Zoom has rooms, so you could truly create an innovative networking group for ideas, start crowdsourcing those ideas or create creative ideas for your business. And I thought I was on a Zoom networking call and they had breakout rooms. So if you had 20 people, it's really hard to network, on a call.
Sure.
But you can use Zoom. That's thankfully technology allows you to take 2 or 3 of those people out of the 20 and put them into a room and have them do some networking.
Well, I think there's a couple of interesting things that you said. First of all, it's innovating on social media, but I don't think that you have to be the innovator. I think I'm a huge plagiarizer. I don't have any original thought. I steal everything, and I'm very open about that. And so I think that seeking out people that are doing what you're trying to do, and they've already laid the groundwork, right? And going and finding them and watching them and seeing what they're doing and replicating their success is a great way to shortcut innovation, right? Because I think we get bogged down with the how do I do it aspect, but it's already been done. There's not a lot of things that haven't been done before. So, I'll use Tracy over at Terramania as a great social media example. That girl is on social media all of the time. She's showcasing things in her shop. She gets a ton of business from social media, and she's done a really good job attracting people to her store because of it. Now, she also has beautiful things, and she's a wonderful person. But, I think her efforts on social media have been really huge in helping bring visibility to her store. So I think the first little golden nugget from this is go find people that are doing what you're doing, but have already laid the groundwork and replicate it. Why reinvent the wheel, right?
And consistency is key.
Something
about Tracy, even to the point where I've had some discussions with a friend of mine. I'll give her a shout out. Sherry Sutton is the marketing mentor. And we were on a call, and she has a color palette. Everything that she does, to the red glasses that she wears, to the colors of her font colors, everything from her papers to her social media, it's all of this very specific color, because consistency breeds trustworthiness, that then breeds more relationship building. And it's brilliant what she has led me towards. So Tracy is one of those that every single day is creating, even if she doesn't feel like it.
Yeah.
She's creating something to remind her customers, future and existing, here we are, here's where we're located, here's what we offer. And she's also tequila tasting that she did.
Oh, she has those creative events inside of her store. I think they're fabulous.
And it's programming. A lot of people set up shop, literally a brick and mortar, and say the doors are open, now come to me.
That's right.
And it doesn't work that way anymore in 2024.
I think Prosper, have you been to Prosper? Was it Prosper Wine Bar? Am I saying the name right?
No, on my list.
Go.
I haven't been.
You gotta go.
I was going to, and then it was raining. The one time.
Okay, well, you and I are going to go to an event over there, because what I think they have done also masterfully, just like Tracy, is to create those events within their shop, right? The store is beautiful. The restaurant and store, what do you call it? Bar is beautiful. But they have lots of private rooms, and they've managed to come up with ideas on how to leverage them. And my favorite was, I didn't go to this, but I was really mad that I didn't. In February, they had a truffle making class, right? And I was like, I want to go make truffles and drink wine. Who wouldn't want to do that? And then I think in April, they had a sip, I forget what they call it, sip and plant or something. They had the succulent, you make the little succulent, you plant the little succulents and you drink wine. I'm like, I want to do all these things. So the next time I see an event, we'll go over there and check it out. But I think that, to your point, tapping into bringing in events inside of your shop is incredibly important too. That goes to networking. You don't have to just, I mean, I think there's already a lot of built-in networking groups that I think that you should be a part of the EDC. I think you should be a part of the chamber, and then any other networking groups. I mean, I'll take Ron, for example, out there in Salina. He started a networking group in Salina, and go be a part of that. Like, they're everywhere. So I think some of that stuff you don't even have to create. It's just built in that you just need to show up for.
And you learn so much.
Yes.
I always learn something. I'm constantly learning, constantly leaning into learning. And the networking has been pivotal, I think, since COVID. Again, we're all competing. We're all competing for that slice of the pie. And the more that you're innovating and connecting and collaborating, I think that's it. There's success there.
But even you don't even have to have, I think, an agenda. Like, let's take, and I'm sorry I keep using Salina. It's just I don't know what Little Elm and Aubrey have. So I just have to go with what I know.
That's all right.
But the Salina Friday Night Market, they have Friday Night Market, what is it, once a month or something in Salina, and it's on Friday evening. But you don't even have to pay to set up a booth. I'm not trying to take revenue away from the event, but just going and being there and talking to people and starting conversations, getting to know people from just a ground level, right? And being genuine about wanting to connect with them will also produce results for you, because naturally, where do you work and what do you do always comes up, you know what I mean? So there's some more organic or easy things where you don't have to do a lot of heavy lifting to plug into what's going on in the community. And as a small business owner, you should be there every time they have one.
Absolutely. And when that's what we talk about a lot. Small business owners are the heartbeat of the community. It's because they're involved. There's nothing wrong with the national corporations. And then when they're in their headquarter location, they're very involved in the community. But you just made a fabulous point that they're not involved in the Rotary or the Chamber. They're not part of the EDC. They're not coming to city council meetings. They're not paying attention. And that's just by nature of the model of them. But small businesses are the most connected. They're the most invested. And if you aren't invested in your community as a small business owner, I highly recommend it. And there's easy ways to do that. Like you said, just Friday Night Market, showing up, getting to know the small business owners in your community's names. Yeah. They're the ones behind the cash register.
That's right.
And they're going to remember, your name and write it on your coffee cup. And now I know national chants do that, but those are those little smaller things that I think really resonate with customers, especially post-COVID. We've become way more savvy as customers because think about it. Before you even get to a restaurant, you can go online and you can read their menu and pick out what you want to order. You can see the inside. There's photographs of the inside and the outside of the restaurant. You can figure out where you want to sit and the food. So
that's right.
Incredible. So if you as a small business owner constantly has to be looking at your digital footprint, and even if you do get a bad review, my advice I recommend is replying to that person and try to make it right, whether they're right or wrong. And there's different ways to connect with them and make it right from a business owner standpoint. So
I came up with an idea for Tracy. I don't think that they've done it yet, but I thought it was super smart idea to co-collaborate with another business, right? So Lauren over at Honeysuckle Rose Boutique, she has hats. Well, Tracy's making hat bands out of her botanical flowers. And so I was like, why don't y'all collab on an event? You bring your database of people in, she brings her database, and you I call it cross-pollinate.
Pollinate, I do too. That's exactly what I say. Yeah.
So a lot of cross-pollination events are, I think, a really good idea. I'm going to pivot on something that's not on this piece of paper. So let's talk about Little Elm and Aubrey for a little bit, just because that is where you are working in now. And so what are you seeing that small business-wise come into the area that you find is interesting and why? I know Tinder just opened a location.
Yep, Tinder has an Aubrey location and now a Little Elm location. Little Elm is a bit different from Aubrey, meaning that there's a ton of tourism along El Dorado and in that lakefront area. But what the town of Little Elm has done fantastically is created something there, the beach, the lakefront vibe, a lot of public placemaking, I call it, open spaces where people can gather, and they're doing a lot of programming. So you've got the national corporate users in Little Elm, but you're seeing more of the small businesses come to that lakefront area, and they're cultivating that more from the national chains. So they're diversifying. Coffee shops, amazing pizza restaurants. There's a lot of density in that lakefront area too. So there's some multifamily there that I think is adding to some of the culture there. And then Aubrey, 377 is the next Preston Road.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of people quite understand that because 380 is such a barrier. And then
they really need to work on that.
And I feel so terrible for all the businesses that are located on 380.
It's got to be
construction. Yeah. So like I mentioned, they've got the golden corridor, but I look at everything visually. So it's more of a golden rectangle for me. You've got PGA and Universal Studios to the south. You've got Margaritaville, Hard Rock to the north, and Texoma. So those are your north and south boundaries. Then think about Sherman and the semiconductors. Anna, Van Alstyne, Melissa. All of these areas are absolutely going to blow up. That's the eastern boundary. And then the western boundary is the Little Elm and Aubrey area. And so they're Pilot Point even. They've got an incredible downtown. I still do some EDC consulting, and I've worked with some of the smaller cities, and they're really just preparing for the growth and then figuring out what their brand and vision is. Going back to small businesses, it's, towns and cities are the same, communities are the same. We're all looking at things from a macro to micro angle. So you're seeing more small businesses, photography businesses, woodworking businesses. A lot of them catered in Aubrey to the farming culture.
Okay.
But because of 377, I know that it's going to change. So it's going to be interesting to watch.
Well, I mean, you had such a heavy hand in what is now coming to fruition in Salina. We've got more and more small businesses opening all the time. I think Forge 1912 is finally going to I don't think is there an opening date?
I think they said a couple weeks. Do you know they're going to have a salad bar?
They are?
Yes. I'm so excited.
I know.
I mean,
I haven't seen a salad bar in a long time.
I know. Me too. And I
go up to the bar and
yes.
Okay.
I'm very excited for that. Obviously, I like a good salad, but I think you've got to you've got to be able to diversify that at lunch. You think of a steakhouse, you think of that for dinner, but in order to be successful, you've got to appeal to a large crowd, a diverse crowd.
Well, not to not dwell on the salad bar, but kind of over in Pilot Point and some of the places that you were talking about, I do want to focus for a second on the places which you are working now. I just wanted to say thank you for all the things that you brought into Salina, because we're now seeing them. And while we have to have the Costco and the Walmart and all of that other thing, I love the fact that we've got, the WIC opening in Forge 1912, and oh my God, tacos I think just opened. I got to get over there.
Me too.
So some of those other places, and I like that kind of stuff, and I'll end up supporting that stuff a lot. But it's nice to hear from you that some of those things are coming to fruition in those areas as well. And I think Pilot Point, isn't that the Western Sun Distillery? I know I know everything by realtor offices and vodka.
Drinking establishments.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
Not really. But
everyone has to have their niche.
I know. Well, I think it's just right there, and I can't. That's another thing. Like sometimes I got to get out of the bubble, the rut of the places that I go to all the time, because the fact that I haven't been up to do that distillery tour just makes me.
Well, I think that's what the events accomplish.
Yes.
If you got a larger event, I think Slide has done amazing. Troubadour, Little Elm has got Brewing Q June 1st. We are a promotional vendor there, so we'll have a tent. We'll have copies of the premiere issue in June of the magazine. I got these little, it's called Lakeside City Lifestyle, so I went with the lake theme and the lake vibe.
I think it's great.
Coming out in the summer, and so I did some fun koozies for that event. But yeah, checking out events not in your area, and then getting to know that local flavor, because they all have a different vibe.
Right.
And I like when they purport that vibe. They add to it, but a lot of that has to do with the leadership, from the cities, as well as Chamber leads so much of this.
Well, and if you've still got influence in these areas, I think that's a positive thing.
I love what I do. I love adding value. I love connecting the dots. Like, you and I are connectors, right? It's one of the most beneficial parts of our job is adding value and connecting cities, communities, and small business owners. So that's truly the future, I believe.
Well, before we wrap up, is there any last minute anything that you would like to leave small business owners with? Advice or anything we haven't talked about?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the biggest is that marketing and branding is that something that business owners in general will put aside in times of lower revenue. But I was listening to a podcast, and they're great, by the way. And there was a very smart marketing individual on the podcast. And they said, if you're not setting aside 15 to 20% of your anticipated annual gross revenue. I said that wrong. If you're not setting aside 15 to 20% of your anticipated annual gross revenue for marketing and branding, you should be.
That's right. I agree with that.
And a lot of people don't, because it's a very hard ROI to measure, even with social media and digital media. If you're boosting your post, the algorithm is showing you what you're interested in, the customer. So if the customer's interested in a custom closet, let's say, and they're searching for that, you're seeing that, but you're not necessarily seeing a barbecue restaurant. So you have to hit it on all three sides: the events, the digital, and then the print, I believe.
I love that you said that, because I think that you first of all, you can't ignore social media. If you're a small business owner and you're not on social media promoting your business, you are missing it. But to have that triangle approach, is that what we're calling it?
I like it. Let's run with it.
I think, yes, it is important to not just do one thing, but diversify your marketing efforts so that you are able to capture, because not everybody is on social media, right? So a lot of people, especially our older generation, do like print materials, and they are more apt to read the print materials. I mean, I read the print materials. I'm not my dad's age, but he reads all the print materials. And so I think having that multi-prong approach where you're going to hit as many people as possible with your marketing efforts is super important. So.
And there was a neuroscience study, now that I'm in the magazine business, there was a neuroscience study done that really does legitimize if somebody can hold it in their hand from a print standpoint. But like you said, you have to do all three.
You have to do all three. Well, Alexis, thank you so much for being on the show with me again. You guys out there in Aubrey, Little Elm, Oak Point, and some of those other areas that we mentioned, make sure that you're checking out Alexis's magazine. And then also, if you are a small business owner, I highly recommend you reach out to her and advertise in her magazine, not just to support her, but also to support your business. Thank you so much for being on the show again with me today. I really appreciate you and always am glad to see you. That's another episode. Again, I'm your host, Tamera Gady. If you like my content, you're really going to love my escrow team. So allow me the opportunity to get with you to talk about your title needs and make it a great day.